Hey there, Internet. I'm working on the control box for my CNC machine, and the controller that I'm using is Bart Dring's port of Gerbil, which is running on this six-pack CNC controller that you can pick up at. You can pick this up at Tindy, but the input, if we look at the specification, I think is 12 to 24 volts. I give up. It's not 48 volts. So if you search for a DC to DC buck converter, what you're going to get is mostly the stuff that goes up to 30 or 36 volts. And one of these ICs actually, there's a big inrush of voltage and it can actually damage your components. I think it's this LM2596. So they're not really safe, number one. And number two, none of these are really rated for 48 volts. And if you wanted to use something higher like 60 volts, you know, there's nothing readily available. But what I found is I found a forum post that says that you can grab a regular wall wart and instead of feeding it AC, you can feed it DC. What I can do is I can supply my AC with one set of wires to this server power supply, run it into as DC output, run it into a regular old wall wart, and then feed that wall wart supply into the six-pack converter. So let me plug it into the power supply and the oscilloscope, and I'll show you what it looks like. So here's my power supply. There's no load on it, obviously, but the power supply is supplying 48 volts. Here's the oscilloscope readout. So the ripple's about 400 to 500 millivolts. And we'll compare that to what it looks like when it's plugged into AC. And here's what it looks like plugged into normal AC. So it doesn't seem to, I mean, the ripple's a little higher, but there's not a big difference. Now I also varied the voltage on my power supply and went down to 30 volts went from 30 volts to 50 volts, and it didn't seem to substantially change the ripple output. So we can test another supply and see if it's any different. So this is an iPower supply. This is a different, I think this is for like a Asus laptop. We've got the same voltage. It looks like it's definitely drawing more current. Yeah, the ripples are really quite bad here. Now, if I turn the voltage down, so this is 40 volt input. This is 30 volts input. It's interesting, as I turn the voltage down, this is 20 volts. It shouldn't even work at this point. I'll go below 20. Does it do boosting? That's pretty wild. My input's 15 volts. Let's go down to 12 volts. Okay, I will not do 12 volts. That is 13 volts. And that is 15 volts. So I'll take it all the way back up to 50. And 1.4 volts a ripple. So that obviously needs some smoothing. Let's put it on the AC. And that is not good. 2.2 volts of ripple, and this is on 120 volt normal US AC. Pretty bad. But the other one was good enough, I think, that it's definitely usable. And the way that I'm going to be using this is as an input to another regulator, so it should be it should actually be fine. So there you go. You can run some of these wall warts on AC power. I noticed that the Lenovo power supplies, wasn't able to get those to work. I also tried a Dell power supply and that didn't work. but I think the cheaper kind of off-brand names, some of them will actually accept a DC input. And if you have any lying around, it's a lot cheaper than going out and trying to buy a 48 to 24 volt buck converter. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and thanks for watching.